All right, guys, I'm going to talk about exactly why I'm buying as much SoFi as possible because I don't want to be left with that awful feeling of I should have bought more. Obviously, that's something we've all said, but it's definitely something I want to avoid. So I'm going to lay out exactly the reasons why I'm buying as much SoFi as I possibly can, but it comes with a gigantic, huge warning that you have to understand if you're going to own SoFi stock. This applies specifically to SoFi, not everyone else. So it's definitely something if you're a SoFi investor looking to be a SoFi investor, you're a long-term buy and hold investor, you're going to want to hear this warning and heed this warning. Otherwise, you're going to get blindsided if it happens. Just make sure you like the video if you like getting the truth without the hype, because that's exactly what you're going to get today, guys. All right, so let's roll into the first reason why I'm buying SoFi stock, and then we'll jump onto that warning after I give you guys the reasons. So reason number one, earnings performance. All right, guys, I go through a lot of earnings calls, 30 something every single earnings season, every single quarter. And some stocks that I don't even own, sometimes I will go through their earnings depending upon, obviously big banks, some other things of that nature. But outside of Nvidia, and I can actually go further past Nvidia, nobody has had better earnings every single quarter now for more than 2 years than SoFi has had, guys. Now, I would agree, Nvidia's performance has just been next level, unbelievable. But SoFi started this before Nvidia ever started having these blowout earnings runs. I mean, we're talking it was 6-8 months before Nvidia was absolutely crushing it with just ridiculous earnings after ridiculous earnings. I'm not saying it's on that level, but in terms of consistently beating and raising over and over and over again, well past 10 quarters now, that has been SoFi. It is very rare in the stock market to see that sort of repeated performance over and over and over again. Now, yes, Nvidia's have been just ridiculous. This kind of just reminds you of those, whenever Tesla went on its big run, Apple's had runs like that in the past in regards to earnings. I'm not sure we've seen anything quite like this particular Nvidia style, just in terms of the size and the very depth. And more importantly, the biggest of the big dogs out there in the world buying Nvidia chips hand over fist. We haven't seen something quite like that. But when I think about steady, incredible performance, quarter in and quarter out, not just hitting expectations, beating expectations, and then raising the guidance beyond what Wall Street wants that guidance raised to. You have seen that repeatedly with SoFi stock, and it's something that's happened very quietly. It's happened very much under the radar. It's not getting big media attention. It's not the talk of the town, and that's perfect for us. That gets me really, really excited. But at some point in time, it is going to be the talk of the town. At some point in time, Nvidia is probably going to fade, not into oblivion or into the dark depths hole or anything else like that, just in terms of earnings finally starting to slow down because it's virtually impossible to keep that pace at the scale that they're at. I mean, you get into multi-trillion-dollar market caps and you get into, hundreds of billions of dollars quarter in, quarter out. That becomes harder and harder and harder to continue to scale at that same growth level, at the level Nvidia's at. SoFi's a lot smaller, which makes it a heck of a lot easier to continue this type of performance well into the future there. So that is something that gets me excited and why I want to buy as much as possible, because when people pick up on it, it's going to start moving. Traders are going to start noticing it. There's going to be a lot of other things moving in SoFi's favor. But for now, I cannot think of a single company outside of Nvidia that has had that sort of performance quarter in and quarter out with absolutely no hiccups for more than 3 years now, essentially, when we're talking about SoFi stock. Number two, the valuation is still attractive. All right, now we are in a hot market here. We're all-time highs. Lots of stocks are trading really, really rich right now. It's not all stocks, but a lot of stocks are trading really, really rich right now. But I don't think there's too many people out there making the case that SoFi is incredibly overvalued. There just isn't really a time for that. Now, you can say it's getting close. You can say we're approaching that point to where we're reaching fair value, maybe a little bit overvalued, depending upon where you place that valuation at and their early stage profits. So obviously that valuation is in flux at this time. But there's nobody out there saying, oh my gosh, it's ridiculously overvalued, outside of just the SoFi bears who just think it's going to go nowhere. It's going to go to zero. Ask the Palantir bears exactly how that worked out, where it was no more than a $5 stock and I can't get more than a $3 valuation on it. This was just last year, by the way, guys, with those Palantir folks. Now, I'm not saying SoFi is going to go on a Palantir style run, but the bears are just going to constantly say that no matter what. Heck, there's probably bears out there who still think Tesla's a $5 stock. I mean, who freaking knows at this stage? I ignore it all in regards to that. But to me, the valuation is still attractive. Now, it's not $4 attractive like it was. We were able to buy shares in the $5 range at points in time this year, but it is still attractive from a risk reward standpoint, especially if you project out what management says their expectation is in 2 years in regards to EPS and stuff. You really start to get excited about buying the stock right now whenever you do that level of work and that level of due diligence on this stock, just using what management tells you, not getting crazy, not getting speculative or anything else like that. Just simply looking at what management's telling you. It looks like an exciting opportunity if they can execute based upon valuation. We are not significantly overpaying for the stock at all. In my opinion, it is still undervalued. So for me, the valuation is still incredibly attractive. So why wouldn't I continue to buy a great stock? Again, I know I say it a lot on this channel, but valuation is key. It is what keeps you from buying stocks when they're ridiculously high. And it also has you gobbling up the deals whenever the fear is incredibly high and every single stock is going to zero according to every single person out there based upon pretty charts and graphs and lines and trend lines and whatever. All that sort of stuff ends up not mattering in the end. What matters is valuation. That's why I preach it so much. So that way you don't have to think as much during times like this. You have actual data right in front of you that shows you the real deal of what's going on. And right now that valuation is very attractive. Number 3, Fintech is still out of favor. Now, I will agree Fintech has awakening just a little bit, but it is still out of favor with the vast majority of investors right now. And that to me is another reason why I want to gobble up a bunch of shares. I don't want to wait until it becomes the hot, trendy thing and then try to buy all my shares. I want it to not be the trending thing whenever I'm buying those shares, right? I mean, when you were thinking about before Tesla went on its big run, EVs were kind of who cares? Nobody cares about that sort of stuff. Not going anywhere, dead stock, all that sort of stuff like that was being said. And then all of a sudden, EVs are all the rage. Well, guess what happened? Most of the folks that bought the hype around the rage and it being the, EVs being the hot, ticket per se, almost every single person that bought into that narrative is down. Some of them still down. Some of them have sold out of the stock. Some of those companies have gone bankrupt. I don't want to be buying during that time. If you look at the chart, would you much rather own Tesla in 2016 or Tesla in 2021? I mean, you tell me there's a vast difference between the two. So for me, when a sector is still out of favor, that is the time to accumulate and build out positions. And the longer a sector stays out of favor, the larger position you can build out because share count's what matters in the end. So yes, Fintech is waking up a little bit. Obviously, we've seen PayPal up from those bottoms, up, I don't know, gosh, what, 30-40% from the bottom of there or so? Pretty decent run up from the 50s. We're up over 70 now. We'll see where exactly everything goes. So it's starting to wake up, but it's definitely not the hot sector. It's not AI. It's not that sort of thing. Think about just Palantir. AI becomes all the rage. Heck, the best time to buy Palantir was when everybody thought AI was a dud and Palantir just was this mystery company that didn't do anything. And, the sector itself was kind of out of favor at the time. That was the time to buy NVIDIA. That was the time to buy Palantir. That was the time to buy all those other, AMD, a lot of other companies like that. That was the time. I'm not saying they aren't still good buys now, despite all the AI hype, but man, those prices of, 10x in some cases, 3x in some cases, 5x in some cases, in between that time. So I would much rather own it before it does all that sort of stuff. So for me, when I look at it, Fintech is absolutely out of favor, starting to get back in favor, but we are not on any sort of uptrend or whatever the case is. But if this truly is the beginning of Fintech starting to come back into favor, I want to gobble up as many shares as I can before that time. So that way I can enjoy the ride more and not have to worry about trying to FOMO in and trying to decide, ooh, is this a good entry point? Is it going to fall back down? And all these other games that people have played trying to figure out when to buy Palantir, when to buy NVIDIA, when to buy all these other great stocks that have had huge runs. I don't want to play those games. I want to be able to sit back and relax now, knowing not only did I buy the shares that I wanted, but I also bought a lot of bonus shares as well. And I don't want to be in that spot where I go, oh man, I wish I would have bought more. That's the spot I'm trying to avoid in the end. I've made that mistake over and over and over again. I'm not sure you can really avoid that mistake completely, but nonetheless, this is part of my strategy to ensure that I'm not saying that when it comes time. But despite all of those great things, there is a warning that I have to warn you guys about, and it is very specific to SoFi and SoFi only, and it will keep you from making a lot of money in the stock. It is also going to prevent you, and it could cloud your judgment to where you have an unrealistic expectation, and it can cost you a lot of money. And it's also a risk factor that you have to understand, because everything is not all roses and sunshine. You just need to wait and you'll get your 10x. That is not how investing works. There are risks specific, sometimes to the sector, sometimes to the economy, sometimes to individual stocks. And in this case, I'm speaking to a massive risk factor in regards to SoFi specifically that you have to understand before you invest. So that way you don't get the crazy idea to go all in on one stock and all that other stupid stuff that gets preached out there sometimes. That is a terrible idea to begin with. And this is one of the reasons why this is a warning case with SoFi, why it may end up being a loser in the end. It might not be. I don't think it's going to be. Obviously, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I bought it repeatedly this year and last year and the year before, but nonetheless, it is still a risk factor that you got to understand. So that way you understand your risk reward and you don't just push all in, because that's a terrible way to invest. So I guess that'd be two warnings then. Don't go all in on one stock. And then this warning right here. And that is, if we get a bank multiple in regards to SoFi, if it does not get a Fintech multiple, which is what all the ultra bulls are saying, I think it's going to get a hybrid somewhere in the middle there. If we end up with a traditional banking multiple, this stock is basically going to be dead money for the next couple of years. I've done the analysis. I did the bull and bear case in my group, the complete bull and bear case, complete with 2-year price targets, the whole nine. It's in there. And the analysis shows that it's not going to be pretty if we end up with a bank multiple. Now, I think that is not likely, but that does not make it not a possibility. And I'm not talking about a 0.00001% and trying to catch these crazy, ridiculous things. It is a reasonable, fair assessment that this might very well be a dead stock and not really go anywhere for the next couple of years if that is the multiple that Wall Street decides to assign to it. So that doesn't mean it can't trade down to that, but I'm talking about that's where investors actually peg fair value at. So that is something you have to keep in mind when you invest in this stock and not ignore. Just make it part of your analysis. It doesn't mean don't buy. Just like a good high price target, wherever you have that price target out there in 2 years based upon the guidance from the management team, that doesn't mean that it's an all-in buy to either. You've got to weigh all the options, understand the risk reward, and then size your position appropriately. And remember, if you want to see that complete bull and bear case, it's like a 30+ minute video there in my group. You want to see all my buy and sell alerts and SoFi in real time, see my complete watch list with price targets for all the stocks I'm buying, get your free coaching, take 5 courses for free, use our stock analyzer tool for free, be a part of the best 6, 7, and 8-figure Discord out there, get tons of exclusive videos, have direct access to me anytime you want, really. I'm always available to you guys there in the group. Make sure you check out the pinned comment and see if a membership's right for you, because I may have left something special down there for those of you guys that made it this far in the video. So definitely make sure you check out the pinned comment and click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market, and click here to see my exact plan for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.